Hey guys, I'm Sonika. In today's video, let's do some night photography with my Nikon Coolpix B500 versus my Nikon D5300.
Please subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell icon to get notified whenever I'm on YouTube. Thank you.
First, let's start with some general settings for night photography that I use. These can be true, guys, with respect to any camera. Now, in the night, there's less light, so you have to open up your aperture, meaning it's great if you can keep the least f number that your lens can allow you to, or at least try to keep it lesser than f5. ISO has to be high, and shutter speed can be low. Now, in a low shutter speed, you have the risk of clicking shaky images. So to avoid that, a tripod is advisable. If you don't have a tripod, you can use the support of any pole, bench, platform, or whatever you may find. But a tripod is highly recommended for night photography. First, the B500 settings. I'm not going to set my camera to a high ISO, because in a point and shoot, if I set it to a very high ISO, I may get very grainy images. So I'm going to set my ISO in the range of 125 to 400, because even if I use the least ISO of 125 without a tripod, I'm likely to get super shaky images. White balance will be auto, focus manual, AF mode, pre-focus. Now with these settings in hand, let's hit the streets. Now I'm going to use the HDR mode. Turn that on. I'm going to switch to the backlighting mode, then go into the menu and turn on HDR. That's it. We have a night landscape mode in the D500. Let's turn that on. Now I'm going to set my camera on my tripod. Since my camera is on my tripod, I can switch to the least ISO of 125. For the first time, I'm going to try some slow shutter photography with my B500 to get beautiful light rays. For that, I'm going to switch to the scene mode, multiple exposure option.
We have nightscape plus light trails, nightscape plus star trails, and star trails. In nightscape plus light trails, the camera will record 50 shots of 4-second shutter speed each every 4 seconds and will save one composite of 10 shots clicked. In nightscape plus star trails, the camera will record 300 shots of 20-second shutter speed each every 25 seconds and one composite will be saved of 30 shots. In star trails option, the camera will again click 300 shots, but this time of 25-second shutter speed every 30 seconds. Again, a composite will be saved of 30 shots. Now I don't need to stack 50 or 300 shots So I'm gonna go with nightscape plus light trails because I think 4 seconds is enough.
Now the problem here is that the camera will keep clicking numerous shots of 4 seconds each, and then later it will combine it into one single image. I don't want that. I just want one image of 4 seconds. So as soon as one image is clicked for 4 seconds, I'm gonna press the OK button so that the camera can process that one image only. That's it with respect to my Nikon Coolpix B500. Now it's the turn for my Nikon D5300. I'm gonna use aperture priority and set my aperture less than f5 like I mentioned before. And the DSLR, I'm not gonna be afraid to raise my ISO. I'm gonna keep my ISO such that I get a shutter speed of around 1/100 if I'm shooting handheld. If I have a tripod, my shutter speed and ISO can both be lower. And matrix metering, auto white balance, I'm gonna shoot in RAW plus JPEG. Again, it's tripod time. Now I'm gonna turn on bracketing. In bracketing, I can click 3 different images in 3 different exposures and then later on combine them in Photoshop.
Now these are my 3 images that I have clicked in 3 different exposures: 0, -0.3 and -0.7. Now I'm gonna take them in Photoshop and show you how I edit them. Here I am in Photoshop. First I'm gonna import my files here. For that I'll go into File, Automate, Merge to HDR Pro. Now I'm gonna browse and select my 3 files which I have to edit. Make sure the attempt to automatically align source images box is checked. Okay. That's gonna take some time for Photoshop to merge all 3 files, so I'm gonna speed this up. Here the HDR Pro dialog box has opened and at first it's at 16-bit. Now what I found is when we edit it with these controls in 16-bit, the image does not look very good and sometimes it starts looking a bit unnatural. So I'm going to switch to 32-bit. In 32-bit, the camera will combine my 3 raw files and make a separate raw file out of it, which is super cool. So I'm going to click Tone in Adobe Camera Raw, that is ACR. Again, it will take some time for Photoshop to process your raw file. And here is my new raw file. Now I can edit it the way I edit any normal raw file. I'll remove chromatic aberration, then adjust the highlights, shadows like I always do by pressing down the Alt key. Here I want my Kala Ghoda to stand out from the background, so I'm going to reduce the shadows and also the blacks so that it stands out. Increase clarity, vibrance, saturation. Play with the curves a bit. Since this was clicked at 2500 ISO, so I'm gonna increase the luminance. And that's it. Open it. My image looks a bit tilted, so I'm gonna just rotate it by pressing Ctrl T. Just gonna rotate it a bit. Now I'm gonna use the crop tool and compose my image. When I'm done cropping it, I'll hit enter. Now it's time to save my image. I go to File, Save As. And once I click here, I'll find that there's no option to save this file as a JPEG. Now since my raw file is at 32-bit, Photoshop may not allow me to save it as a JPEG. So what do? I cannot upload a PSD on Instagram, right? So for that, I'm going to hit Ctrl A, select the whole image, Ctrl Shift C to copy all, then create a new file at 8-bit or 16-bit, whatever you like. Hit OK and paste here with Ctrl V. This file I will be able to save it as a JPEG. Here you go. I give it a name, bracketing, whatever you want. And that's it.
Now it's time for slow shutter photography. So I'm gonna switch to the manual mode and keep my shutter speed around 4 seconds. You can keep it higher or lower depending on the scene in front of you. Aperture can again be around f5 and ISO can be the least 100. It is better to use a remote for slow shutter photography because we may introduce some kind of shake while pressing the shutter release button. So a remote will help us to avoid that unnecessary camera shake. Now that we have our images, let's take them to Photoshop and see what we can do with them.
Here is my image clip with the Nikon Coolpix B500, and here is an image that I've clicked with my Nikon D5300. Both are at Kala Ghoda, Mumbai, street photography. Now I'm going to edit them, so I go to Filter, Camera Raw, increase exposure just a bit, increase contrast, press down Alt and adjust the highlights. Once I stop seeing these patches, that's when my highlights are good to go, I guess. Shadows, same way, I press down the Alt key. The file will have some shadows, guys. It's quite unlikely that you will stop seeing these spots with respect to night photography, so it's okay. A little bit of shadows looks good too. And whites and blacks, similarly I will adjust it with the Alt key. Increase clarity, vibrance and saturation. Make it little warm, so I'm going to increase the temperature. I want it a little warm so that it looks nice and orange. Curves, this looks a bit underexposed, so I'm going to bring out the exposure through curves. Increase luminance a bit because this is at 400 ISO. I'm going to increase the yellows in my image so that it looks a nice warm scene. Similarly with my orange, also my chairs are yellow, so that yellow will really stand out here. Similarly, I'm going to play with the other colors and try to bring them out the way I want them to be. Remove chromatic aberration. Okay. So you see, such a huge difference it makes when you edit your images. My image looks a lot brighter and warmer because of the edits. Now it's time to edit my DSLR image. Same way, I'm going to go to the camera raw filter. First thing I'm going to do is enable lens correction, remove chromatic aberration. reduce highlights by pressing down the Alt key. A little bit of highlights are there because of these neon signs, so it's okay. Same way the shadows, bound to get some shadows guys, and it looks okay also. Little bit of dark will be there in the night, I guess. Increase contrast, exposure, adjust whites and blacks, clarity, vibrance and saturation. Increase the temperature. Again, I want my image to look a little warm, so I'm gonna increase the temperature a little bit. Curves. My image is exposed well this time, so I'm just gonna fidget with the curves a little bit only. Increase luminance because I clicked this at high ISO of 2500. I'm gonna go to the HSL tabs and increase my yellows because my background has a yellow wall, and even that restaurant, everything is yellow here, so I want to enhance that, want to bring that out. And also my image will look a lot warmer because I have increased my yellows, and the same I'll do with my oranges. Little more exposure. That's it. Okay. And that's it. My images are edited and ready.
So guys, here is a comparison between my Nikon Coolpix B500 and Nikon D5300 for night photography. And if it's night guys, don't turn off your camera because it's dark. Night photography is an altogether different world of photographs, and I hope my tips in this video help you get some very good night photographs. If they did, give me a huge thumbs up. Leave a comment down below about which tutorials you want to watch next on my channel. You guys voted for this video when I put out a poll on my community tab. So guys, please let me know what you want to watch next on my channel. Share this video with your friends and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also turn on the bell icon to be notified whenever I am on YouTube. Here is my previous B500 tutorial, and here is a playlist that plays all my content related to the B500. Please go check them out guys. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more such videos every Wednesday on my channel. Bye.